Thank you, Christine. Once again, welcome everyone. It is a very, very cold day where we are today. I think when we woke up, it was minus 20. And apparently with the wind chill, minus 30, which is very, very, very cold. Anyway, I hope it is
warm.
We're
in Canada.
Oh, exactly. I hope it is warm where other people are at this time.
For sure. Thank you, Deborah, for joining us. I will introduce Ms. Deborah shortly. Before we go further, I would like to let everyone know this is the Global Youth Challenge 2022, and the topic for this year's competition is AI and the future of humankind. It's a very interesting topic for everyone to discuss, and Deborah will be here to help us with creating your artwork. Now, the Global Youth Challenge is a not-for-profit foundation registered under the Canada Corporation Act. And the aim is to provide you guys, the youth, international youth from around the world, to express your views, ideas, to discuss creative solutions to current world issues. For example, this year, it is AI and the future of humankind. And each year, we have thousands of students joining us from all over the globe. And the submissions for the last 2 years have been wonderful. Now, again, this is a global competition, and we encourage you, wherever you're from, don't be shy, join us with your entry and join the wonderful discussion. For GYC 2020, the topic was COVID-19, still a very relevant topic we have as we face a pandemic today. Last year, excuse me, GYC 2021, it was about world peace. And again, this year, topic is about AI and the future of humankind. Now, you can join us during the GYC challenge in 2 different ways. One is as a competitor. The second is as a volunteer. Now, you are more than welcome to stay in this Zoom to participate in the volunteer roundtable discussion at 10 o'clock. Right now, this session is specifically aimed for those of you who are joining us as a competitor. As a competitor, please enter the competition with your submission. Now, the requirement is you can choose to do a 300 to 500 word essay or a piece of artwork, plus a 1-minute video speech. The purpose of the 1-minute video speech is to give you more time, another format to express your ideas behind your essay or your artwork to allow the judges to get to know you a little bit more. Now, how would you submit your entry? It's very easy. You can submit your entry by email to submit2022@theglobalyouth.org. Of course, you're going to submit your essay in a Word or PDF format, as well as your artwork. Now, for the video, it can get a little bit large depending on the clarity. So we would kindly like to ask you to upload it to YouTube, Bilibili, or any of the platform that is in your country that would allow you to have a link of your video and include that in your submission email. Now, for the subject line, it's very simple as well. Just say competitor, your name, and the country you are from, and we'll be able to distinguish that and save that to include that in all the entries that are submitted. Each year, we do get a lot of entries, so please make sure that the subject line is correct. As a competitor, please keep these dates in mind. We have extended our registration deadline to February 7th, so you still have time. And we have also extended our submission deadline until February 15th. You have lots of time to hone your ideas, to hone your entry. And by February 28th, the top 16 will be announced via email, as well as on the website. By March 25th, if you are chosen as one of the top 16, you'll be joining us live in the final. The final will be streamed live via YouTube and Bilibili. And by April 8th, the top 25% winner will be announced. So please keep these dates in mind. Now, all communication from the GYC will be conducted by email. Kindly check your email on a regular basis, please. Now today, Ms. Deborah is here to give you some ideas, to give you some help and assistance in creating your artwork. Last week, we had Mr. Alex, who kindly discuss with us how to write a good essay, how to improve your presentation skill. And the GYC Masterclass is here to assist you, the competitors, to improve different skills and to improve your entry as a whole. Now we have the wonderful Miss Deborah here. She is the principal of the Arundel Academy, wonderful picture. And she's also a certified educator with the Ontario College of Teachers. She holds several degrees. Let's list them. One is the Bachelor of Arts Honors and Bachelor of Education from the University of Toronto. She also holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Ryerson University, one of the premier art university in the country. She has taught many subjects, including and not limited to visual arts, English, and drama. She has many, many years of experience working with the Peel District School Board in different positions as guidance counselor, as teachers, and she's always here to support her students, to inspire them to obtain their life goals. And we are very honored to have you here, Deborah, and go ahead whenever you're ready, please.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Christine. Yes, I am so happy to be here to share my knowledge and my experience with our students today in the Global Youth Challenge. So we may begin whenever you are ready, Christine, with the presentation. Since I am a visual learner, and also, excuse me, a visual arts teacher, I choose to represent my ideas visually with you. I do encourage when you would like to, you may do any drawings to remind you of what I'm showing you, and or take a few notes that will help you plan and design your creative artwork. So once again, as Christine very clearly described, the topic of this year's Global Youth Challenge is AI and the future of humankind. And of course, AI means artificial intelligence, intelligence that comes not from people, not from living beings, but from robots or computer programs and those kind of very mysterious things. Next slide.
Go ahead, Deborah.
So can we show the next slide on the big screen? Is that possible? If you go up to slideshow.
Yeah, so this is the next slide.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. The background is the same. All right, forgive me. So yes, today is the Global Youth Challenge Masterclass, and we are going to be talking about designing your creative artwork. As Christine mentioned, there is a choice of either the essay or the artwork. Okay, so I'm not seeing the second slide as the big slide.
Anton, are you seeing this slide with the pictures?
No, I'm still seeing slide number 1.
Okay, let me reshare.
No worries. Yeah.
Sorry about that, a little bit of a technical difficulty.
That's okay. Actually, what I can also describe for you is the idea that what we talk about today can be very, very helpful for you to help determine what you want to talk about. So there is also the 1-minute video that is required as part of your submission. So what will you talk about when you show your artwork, or what will you talk about when you show present your essay? So I'm going to give you some very important language that will help you to describe your artwork and how your artwork connects to AI and the future of humankind.
I'm sorry, Deborah, are you seeing the...
I'm still seeing the first slide, yeah.
You're still seeing the first slide?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on.
I'm not sure if there's any way I can help from my end of things, but...
Sorry, just give me 1 minute.
Yeah, that's okay. No worries.
Can you see the second slide now?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, maybe we continue this way. I'm going to make this one bigger. So in case we have any complications, I'm able
Sure.
to adjust quickly.
Perfect.
This page is okay?
Yes, this is perfect. So once again, in today's GYC Masterclass, we will focus on how to create a visual artwork that conveys a meaning and a message to the viewer. So for your ideas, you will need to share your response to AI and the meaning and how it will affect humankind. So when you talk about your artwork, it'll be very important to give a description. One of your artworks may look something like one of these. Of course, these are already existing artworks. We can't copy, but we can certainly seek inspiration. So whether you choose to do a poster design, like I've shown on the screen here, or a self-portrait of how someone might feel when encountering AI, or something that might be beautiful, as in your opinion about AI can bring beauty and joy to the world, for example. Okay, next slide. So how to plan your artwork. I have broken the steps down into 3 different parts. So if you choose to do an artwork instead of an essay, step 1 will be to do your research and determine your point of view about the topic of artificial intelligence. What are you going to say? What is your opinion? It is important to do research to find out, what is AI all about? What are the recent developments, and where do we hope that AI will go in the future? And of course, how will AI affect the future of humankind? What impact will artificial intelligence have on our world, on you as an individual, on you and your family, and in the larger scope, in you as an employee or an employer? What's your job going to be, and how will AI relate to that? And what, of course, are your opinions and your point of view? So that's step 1. Do your research, find out, and then develop your opinion. Step 2 is what is your message to the viewers of your artwork? What do you want to convey to your viewer? What is the mood and feeling do you want to portray about the topic of AI and the future of humankind? Because every good artwork has an impact. Every effective artwork says something. It communicates to the person looking at it. Next slide. And step 3 will be to use specific colors, lines, and a focal point to create an artwork that communicates your message to the viewer. So this is what we will learn about today. I have broken down the elements and principles of design, and anyone who has taken an art course will have learned about elements of design and principles of design. I have chosen 3 very important ones since we don't have a lot of time today, approximately 1 hour. So we're going to look at how to use color, how to use lines, and how to use a focal point to create an artwork that communicates your message to the viewers. Next slide. So once again, the big question, what are we going to be doing? What is our artwork all about? Well, we're going to talk about how does an artist convey a message that makes you feel and react a certain way. Because once again, we want our viewers, we want the people looking at your artwork to feel a certain way. You have to convey a message. You have to communicate your ideas and have that strong impact on the viewer. So let's look at some examples of artworks so that I can show you what I mean. I'm sure all of you have seen this very famous artwork. It is used in many ways. So you might have seen it in popular culture, in your art studies, on t-shirts, on purses. It is used literally everywhere in fashion and in the art world. It's called The Scream, and the artist is Edvard Munch. And it is very, very clearly an artwork that communicates a message to the viewer. So when we look at this, what I'd like you to think about is, how does this artwork make you feel? So when you look at it, when you see that artwork called The Scream, what do you feel like? How does it impact your senses? Excuse me. So how does it make you feel? Perhaps we could have a volunteer provide a response. How does this artwork make you feel when you look at it? What are your emotions that you feel? What is your reaction to this very famous artwork? Do we have a volunteer who can give us an idea, even a few words? Give me a one-word description of how this painting makes you feel when you look at that face in the foreground. Foreground means close to us. How do you feel when you look at the background and you see the red sky looking very, very ominous or mysterious? Well, how do you feel when you see those two dark strangers in the middle ground of this painting? Are there any volunteers out there to provide your ideas of how you feel? I think everyone is shy. Horrifying. Thank you, Cameron. So Cameron feels horrifying. Yes, horrifying. Anyone else?
Deborah, may I join the conversation?
Yes, of course.
I think, as we know, this is a very famous painting. And I think when I look at it, I feel very apprehensive about continuing to go on looking at it. It's very scary to me.
Thank you, Christine. Does anyone else wish to share? You may use the chat box if you wish. It's okay to keep your ideas to yourself. So we've had horrifying from one student, Cameron, and Christine said she doesn't really want to look at it anymore because it appears very scary. I'd like you to look at the face. The face is what we call the focal point. It is the place where the artist wants you to look first. It is the place where the artist wants you to actually see the main emotion or the main point or the main message. So when I see that, I see the person with their eyes closed and their hands on their face and their mouth is very scared. Let's look at the lines. The lines are very wavy. You see the background with the wavy lines and the swirls in the water like a whirlpool. You also see in the landscape, this is what's known as an expressionist kind of painting. There's a great amount of expression happening in the landscape. It's also kind of swirly. And for me, when I look at this painting, yes, it is very scary. But also, I kind of feel dizzy. Even the person in the foreground, the main person we're looking at, he's kind of distorted and bent, as if the whole world is kind of distorted. And that kind of makes me feel a little dizzy. Even the painting itself kind of looks like it's sideways a little. So the artist, Edvard Munch, has used lines that are wavy to kind of make you feel uncomfortable and dizzy. He's shown a focal point of a face, a human face that looks like they are in distress. And the third way to express a message or a feeling is to use color. So we see a few different colors, but the main overall color is reds and oranges. We do see some green, but it's very dark green, kind of ominous or scary kind of green, the darkness, like in the dark forest. So color has meaning, and we are going to get to that in a moment or so. Next slide, please. So this painting is by a Canadian artist. Her name is Emily Carr, and she is one of my favorite artists. This painting of Emily's is called Light Swooping Through. Light Swooping Through. So when you see this title, it's very different from the previous painting called The Scream. The Scream, very scary. Light swooping through is kind of magical. Swooping is a word that is very, has a lot of movement, like flowing through. Light, when we see and think of light, it is a positive thing. If we're in the darkness, we might be afraid, but when we see the light, it means we are recognizing our world and feel confident in our surroundings. So once again, how does this artwork make you feel? Could we have anyone in the chat box share? Maybe one word. How does it make you feel when you look at this painting?
Please feel free to share your ideas via the chat box by typing your answers, or if you like to open your mic, you're more than welcome to.
Maybe Anton. Anton, how does this painting make you feel? I know you are comfortable speaking.
Okay. So it looked like, one moment.
Yeah.
Here it looked like magic.
Yes. So yeah.
I like the way colors are used. It
Okay,
makes me
great.
feel more relaxed than the previous painting.
Great. Thank you, Anton. Does anyone else wish to share their ideas?
I feel like it's less dense than the previous one. Previous one had very heavy, darker colors.
Yes. Great. Do we have anyone wishing to share in the chat box? It is okay. I know that you are thinking about it, and that is what is important.
Oh, we have
Peace.
a couple of answers.
Genesis, peace, yes.
And we also have Dian, who said it's vague and it's harmonious. Ali also shared it's positive. It gives me hope to carry on because I feel like there's a success after the struggle, after light, after dark.
Excellent. We have some very perceptive people looking at this artwork because you are giving responses that are, I believe, very close to what the artist Emily Carr had intended when she names her artwork. And if you submit an artwork, you should name your artwork. Be sure to have a name. So light swooping through, the idea that light is important. It is the first word. Yes, there is hope. There is peace. This painting gives a very different feeling. At this time, I will look at the colors, and the colors being mostly greens, different, light and darker green. And in the distance, we see this beautiful light, almost like the tree itself is lit up. So color is very, very important because it is the first thing that we notice. It may not be the first thing we talk about in an artwork, but it is definitely the first thing we notice. So in the previous slide, we saw the scream, which was red. Red is like fire. It's like energy. Fire can mean danger. So the color red and orange being very hot and kind of uncomfortable. This is why Edvard Munch in the Scream chose to use mainly red and orange because it's that color that means warning or danger. We have our stop signs, for example, the red light. If you're driving, red light means stop. Red means danger. Red can signify energy that can be good, but maybe sometimes not so good. I'd like to point out something in this painting besides the color. If you notice in the foreground, at the bottom part of this painting, we see something that might be a little bit frightening. So these, to me, look like they are logs or branches. They are from fallen trees. And these trees are looking very sort of, again, wavy and curly and maybe pointed like danger. Things that are pointed, shapes that are pointed like this, you feel if you stepped on it, it might hurt you. Jagged lines or zigzag lines can mean danger. And we're going to talk about line in a moment. So this painting has contrasting elements to it. So when you do your artwork, when you create your artwork, it doesn't have to be all really good feeling or all really bad feeling. Okay, so you can convey in your artwork different emotions. So when you look at the bottom part of this painting, it's kind of a warning. It's a little bit scary. It's like the forest is dead. So here's something interesting about Emily Carr. She lived in British Columbia, Canada, where there are beautiful forests and beautiful trees. However, there were many people who bought land and started to cut down the forest and to destroy these beautiful redwood trees and the beautiful evergreen trees. They wanted to, of course, sell the wood because they would make a lot of money. So Emily Carr's message here is that be careful, because if we destroy the forest, if we have them dead branches lying among the forest, they take the big part of the tree and leave these dying branches that they've cut off. She said, this is a bad thing. However, as your eye goes towards the light in that lit up tree, it means there is hope. So even though there may be some sadness or some destruction shown in Emily Carr's painting at the bottom area, there is hope. She says it's okay because we can protect our trees. And even to this day, people are working to protect the giant redwood trees, the old growth forest. So therefore, in this painting, Emily Carr is showing both hope and light and peace, but also at the bottom, it's very dark and ominous, meaning danger. It's almost like a warning. Okay. And the focal point, just before we move away, the focal point, I think we all know, is that beautiful light that is in the upper part of the painting. So it is important to have that focal point. What is the place that you want your viewer to look? What do you want them to see? You want them to see the whole painting, but the most important part is that light, the light swooping through the forest. Okay, next slide. So summary, as we continue, how does an artist tell a story and make you feel a certain way? Well, choice of color, okay? Red meaning danger. Could be green meaning life and hope. Artists use a specific lines and specific shapes, wavy lines that make you feel kind of dizzy, or sharp lines that show danger. And the design of a focal point or center of interest, so that your viewer, the person looking at your artwork, looks at a very particular place on your painting. You can also do a photograph or a drawing. It doesn't have to be a painting, by the way. It can be any kind of artwork. It can be a poster as well with writing on it, just so that you are clear. It doesn't have to be a painting as I'm showing. I am purposely not showing paintings or artworks that contain ideas about AI, because I want that to be your task. I'm showing different kinds of artworks that teach us about choice of color, choice of lines, and a focal point. Okay, next slide. So first thing, when you come up with your main idea that you want to convey, the main idea you want to communicate in your artwork, first of all, think about what colors you are going to use. The color wheel can be used to help plan a color scheme. A color scheme is very simply a color design. What colors are you going to combine on your artwork to convey your message? Next slide, please. So here's an example of how to use color, and these we also showed in the artworks. So warm colors, as you see at the top of this design, warm colors, including red, yellow, and orange, can show danger, energy, heat, fear, even love, intensity. So sometimes a color can show both positive things and negative things, depending on the images, depending on the pictures that you show. So red can show love. Red can show celebration or luck, as we know in the Lunar New Year that's coming up. We know that red symbolizes good fortune. So red can be positive, but it can also mean danger. So sometimes colors mean both. At the bottom, cool colors. Cool colors, including blue, green, purple, can convey the idea of being calm and cool, peacefulness. Green can mean life, growth. Blue can be very peaceful. Did you know that the color blue is apparently among the world's favorite color? We all love to see the blue sky. So cool colors can show safety as well, a feeling of sanctuary or a safe place. Next slide. Also, did you know that lines have meaning? So I'm getting into some areas that you would learn if you take an art course. This is just a very, very brief overview of some of the details of what you would learn and to how to show in your artwork to have a feeling or mood. So there are 5 basic types of lines, and artists use these lines purposely to convey their message. So horizontal lines, as in shown here at the top, horizontal lines can mean something is very calm and very steady. Think of calm water being horizontal. Think of lying down and sleeping. Very, very peaceful, okay? So horizontal lines mean calm and steady and peaceful. Vertical lines mean strength and power. So if you have a lot of vertical lines in your artwork, tall trees or tall buildings, it shows strength and power. Diagonal lines, the third type of line, it can go 2 ways. A diagonal line can go upwards, meaning kind of like uphill. Lines that go up signify a challenge. Think of riding a bicycle, riding uphill. That's a challenge. I'm going to have to work really hard. Rising lines can also mean positive hope. Think about the stock market. Think about when the stock prices go up and you have those stocks. It means it's rising. There is hope. There is growth. And the other way, diagonal line, going downwards, as shown here, means release. Or when you think about falling down, it's easy to ride a bicycle down the hill, but also a downward diagonal can mean sadness, feeling down. I'm sort of feeling very, very low and my shoulders are sloping downwards. The fourth type of line is zigzag. Zigzag is a fun word. Zigzag means energy and danger. When you look at my drawing of zigzag, you might think of sharp mountain peaks. You might think, when you put the zigzag sideways, you might think of lightning being very dangerous. Zigzag also can mean like teeth. When you think of a scary animal who bares its teeth, it does that because it wants to show that zigzag. So it's a very fearful kind of energy that zigzags can show. And finally, curved lines mean gentle movement. It can also kind of mean fun. You know, curly lines are fun. Think of a party when you have streamers that are kind of curly, that are hanging to design and decorate the environment. And also, though, wavy lines can, again, depending how they're shown, make you kind of feel dizzy, which is kind of fun. So remember, you can use color to convey meaning in your artwork. You can use lines to convey meaning in your artwork. Next slide, please. So I've shown 2 photographs here, and they are both of landscapes. My question for you, as you look at each of these photographs, is, what would it feel like to walk here? What might the temperatures be? How might it feel on your feet as you're walking? How might you feel as you're trying to maneuver through each of these landscapes? We might use the colors and the lines in each photograph to describe what it might feel like to walk here. So when you create your artwork, keep in mind that as people look at it, they can almost feel like they're part of it. So in the landscape that is shown on, I believe it should be the left side of your screen, what might it feel like to walk there? What might your feet feel like? What might the temperature be? Does anyone wish to share? You may share in the chat box, or you may tell us in your words. How might it feel to be inside that photograph? What is the temperature? How does it feel on your feet? How does it look around you? What we can do in these cases, we can use colors and lines to explain why we feel this way. And remember that with your submission of an artwork, you need to have a 1-minute video to describe and explain your opinion about AI and the future of humankind. So this is good practice, because when you're showing your artwork, you talk about it. You explain how the artwork connects with your main idea. Does anyone have any ideas they would like to share?
I think while we give our competitors a little bit of a time to think about it, I'm going
Yeah.
to go ahead and start.
Yeah.
For the left side, I feel like the main colors are orange-ish, red-ish. I guess the focal point would be the top right side, where there's the sun, either it's a sunset, not too sure, but I feel like it's bringing light to the picture. It has curvy, wavy lines. It's not as pointy compared to the right side. So I assume when my feet touches the ground, it would be less, like it wouldn't hurt as much. It's probably generally soft. Obviously, it's going to be very warm. It could be super hot, or to a point of warm that my feet cannot handle. Personally, I would prefer the left side, the picture on the left side. The right side seems very dangerous and pointy, and not somewhere I would like to go to if I had a choice of the two. It also seems kind of cold and bare. I feel like I'm not going to see a lot of people. Well, obviously both I'm not going to see a lot of people, but I would prefer not to go to the mountains.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine. Does anyone else have any ideas they would like to share?
So from what I can see in the two paintings, the first one should look like sunset, and the second one should be, at noon or something. But the same thing happened to me, that I don't want to be here, because in the first environment, it looks, vast, and someone will be lost if he or she is here, because it looked like, the sun is setting and nobody is there. The lines, if I can see it there, it's long lines and it's not really pointed. So it gives me the feeling that it's really huge, right? That vast, immense. In the second one, the line is a little bit, pointing up high, like the mountains. So it's so dangerous. And again, nobody was there, right? It's so thrilling, and it kind of, making me feel really scared.
Great. Thank you very much, Anton. So you have both done a great job of using words to describe how you would feel if you were to be walking within each of these landscapes. You also did a great job of talking about color, how the red kind of could feel kind of comfortable, maybe. We also, in this photograph on the left with the sand dunes, we see some blue. So it could be sunset or sunrise. So maybe the temperature isn't too extreme. There's kind of a warmness to it. And yes, definitely the focal point would be the sun. You see mostly curved lines, very horizontal lines. Remember, horizontal lines mean very calm and peaceful. Whereas on the right, the mountainous landscape, you see more upright and jagged edges. And remember, vertical lines mean strength and power, and mountains are a perfect example of powerful and strong. We've heard perhaps the saying about trying to move mountains, which means it's very impossible. So we know that mountains are very strong, they're very steadfast. And Cameron Ali, supposing the mountains, I think it is like thirsty and hunger leading to death if we have no source of water. I don't know what the rest of it says in the chat.
If I may continue to read,
Yeah.
so the last half is, and if we are expert and have resources, it would be very adventurous and exciting. But like you read for the beginning, supposing the mountains, I think it's like thirsty and hunger and would lead to death. We have no source. So I think depending on whoever's looking at the picture, each one would have a different opinion.
Yes, absolutely. And both of these environments are kind of scary, you know, and it kind of depends on your personality and your wishes and your interests. So I'm imagining that somewhere in these sand dunes, there may be a beautiful water source. But definitely up in the mountains, yes, maybe thirsty because, you know, there may be some snow, but maybe not any water. So again, we have different viewpoints, which will be true for your artwork. So some people feel safe looking at a certain kind of landscape. Some kind of areas where there are no people, though, might be kind of scary. So what is the future of humankind when it comes to artificial intelligence? And this is a way that, once again, shows an example of how when your audience, when your viewer looks at your artwork that you create for the Global Youth Challenge this year, make them feel a certain way, because using color, using line, and using shapes and a focal point can help you to convey the overall feeling and message of your opinion about AI and the future of humankind. Next slide. So, as a summary, artists choose colors and types of lines to create a meaning and message. What is your message about AI and the future of humankind? Which colors and lines would you use in your artwork to convey your message? Okay, next slide. So focal point. Focal point is fairly easy to
Sorry.
It's okay. No worries. We're back at, yep, there we go. K2, second largest. I see that Cameron Ali is talking about the mountains. Christine, are you able to see Ali's chat message?
Yes, I am. So Ali also said, I love mountains. You may know that K2, second largest in the world, is in his region.
Yes. K2 is a very famous mountain peak. I believe Mount Everest is the highest peak in the world. K2 is second to Mount Everest. K2 is extremely dangerous, and it is legendary for challenges. When people want to challenge a mountaintop, K2 is the place to go, and many people have lost their lives trying to do that. So thank you, Cameron Ali. So focal point in an artwork is the main area an artist wants you to see. So when you look at this photograph, we all can see where the focal point is. It's the red apple. So one way of determining, or one way of showing the focal point, where do you want your viewers to look when they see your artwork? Well, in this example, it's very clear. It's the color that's the different one, okay? It's the red one. We first look at the red one. We automatically, our eyes go to the part that's different than the other apples. Focal point. Next slide. So in these three photographs, where is the focal point? And I'm going to have you guess for each one. And if you wish, you may share, but to yourself. So I will give you time, a few moments, to take a look at three photographs. Each photograph has a different focal point, and they use a different technique to show that focal point. So we will give you a few minutes. Okay, 10 more seconds. Find the focal point for each. Okay, so number one, where's the focal point? I think many of you can throw your answers into the chat here. Where's the focal point in photograph number one? Don't be scared. Use your own language. Yes, Cameron Ali is a very excellent participant. Yeah, Anton, yes. Yeah, number one. Yes, of course. It is the chair. Number one, the focal point is the chair. Now, when it comes to being an artist or being a photographer, yep, the red chair. Thank you, Sophie. There are many different techniques you can use. So let's look at number one, how to show the focal point. This is a really great example because it shows many different techniques of how to show your focal point. First of all, the chair is a different color than everything else. That is probably the strongest way to show the focal point. Also, the second method here is the chair is in the center. If you place something important in the center, it will draw attention to the focal point and show exactly what the most important part of your artwork is. The third technique here is what is called converging lines. Converging lines. So we see the edges of the roadway. They're spread out. And as it goes off into the distance, those lines of the roadway converge or come together. So when you put something at a point where the lines converge or come together, that also, even though we don't know it, we can't necessarily explain why we look at something, but converging lines can bring our eyes to the focal point. Yes, Sophie, the color is bright and easy to see in the whole picture. Yes, so red. Red is also a very attractive and eye-catching color, which is why, again, we have red stop signs and we have red lights to show stop. Okay, but this is not a dangerous photo. It's in nature, mostly green, but the focal point is definitely the chair. Okay, number two, where do you think the focal point is in photograph number two? You can use the chat box. The smiling boy. Yes, so another way to make your viewer, or to make the people who are looking at your artwork look a certain place, toddler, yep, is to use a human face. We are programmed as humans to be attracted to human faces. Believe it or not, it is really quite remarkable. And if you have an artwork with many, many different objects in it, many different patterns and shapes, and you have a human face, typically that is the place where your attention will be drawn to the human face. And it is, I believe, something that is programmed in us as people to recognize our own kind. If you are to notice animals too, animals are attracted to your face. If you have a pet at home, when your pet wants to see who is coming towards me, you will notice typically they will look up at your face, believe it or not. And they will look at your face for recognition. The other day I had a big coat on because it was so cold, and I had my hood up, and I was coming up the hallway, and my cat saw this big coat that I had on, and she was very afraid, and she looked up at my face, and even so I had my scarf, so she could barely recognize me. This is my cat. So she took off because, of course, she saw this big person in a big coat and couldn't see my face, so she didn't recognize who I was. Very interesting. So the human face, if you want your audience to notice a certain place in your artwork, use the human face, even elements of the face like an eye or lips, for example. Number three is kind of interesting. It is one of those abstract kind of mysterious expressionist kind of images. How about the focal point here? Yep, I feel like it is the man. Yes, in fact. Yep, that's right. It is the man. So even though the man is very small in comparison, yeah, people, even though the person that is here in number 3 is a lot smaller, once again, it is a human figure. Even though the foreground is very colorful and very interesting in terms of its zigzaggy shapes, we are drawn to the shape that is different, the shape that is positioned here. This is an excellent example of what is called the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds, R-U-L-E, of thirds. And if you want to look that one up, it takes a little while to explain, but essentially the rule of thirds is explained by dividing your artwork into 3 parts. Exactly, rule of thirds. So if you draw a line down from top to bottom to divide the piece into 3, and from side to side, put another 2 lines, where any of the lines converge or come together is a place where you can put your focal point. So that is going to be something that you can do a little bit of research on later, is look up the rule of thirds. But essentially, your artwork is divided into 3 up and down lines, as well as side to side. So where the lines converge is where you can put your focal point, rule of thirds. So we've got, with the chair, we've got the different color, use of color to show the focal point. We have converging lines, and we have using the center area as a place where you can draw attention to something important. Then in number 2, we have the human face. And number 3, we have a technique called the rule of thirds. Okay, next slide. So a summary, artists put important objects, places, words, etc., at a focal point to make the viewer see important ideas. And I've used this different example to show you that it's not just in photographs, it's not just in artworks, but also in printed material. So if you were to design a poster, for example, as your artwork, you can still do that. You can still put an important word in a certain place. Again, this uses the rule of thirds. It's at one of those converging lines, or rather crossing lines. and it's also a different color. So it doesn't have to be pictures. It can also be words on a page in a poster, for example. Next slide. So we have come to the end of our little lesson today on how to create an effective artwork that communicates ideas. So let's apply what we have studied today. This painting is also very famous. It's called The Boating Party, and it's by Mary Cassatt. So what we can see here is we can see some of the examples of what we learned today. We can learn about focal point. When you first look at this painting, you will most likely see the baby, because the baby is the brightest color. Notice how the artist uses a bright pink, and where there's light, that child, that is the focal point. It is also a human face. Okay, so we are not necessarily drawn to the mother or the father who is rowing the boat, but it's the baby that is the most important piece. The message is about the baby, about the innocence and the beauty of this innocent child. We also noticed that there are horizontal lines. You can actually see the horizon in the top of this painting. So take a look also at the waves. They're very gentle, so mostly horizontal waves. There's a horizontal line in the boat itself, in the center of the boat. So this gives the impression that it's calm. It's a calm day. We can see that the sail on the boat is sort of gently riding the wind. It's not way up in the sky. You don't see the waves being really choppy and zigzaggy, which would mean danger. So it's a very peaceful day. It's called the boating party. So there must be other boats around. It seems like a very friendly kind of day where it's a party. People are boating. It's a party. So in this way, the artist is conveying many things. It's a good day. It's a family kind of day. The colors are mostly green, a little bit of pink, but green and blue mean fresh and calm and safety. So by looking at this painting, and I imagine that you can find many other paintings and artworks where you can look at the color, you can look at the use of line, and you can see the focal point in this painting that you are looking at. Do some of that today. Try and challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to look at different works of art and just see how the artist conveys meaning and conveys a feeling by using color, line, and focal point. Next slide. So conclusion, when creating your artwork, be sure to use purposeful colors. Do you want to use reds, oranges, and yellows to convey the idea of heat and intensity and energy, or perhaps danger? Or do you want to use blues, greens, and purples to show the idea of freshness and life and the idea of positive thinking and safety? Do you want to use meaningful lines? Maybe zigzags meaning danger, curved lines meaning dizziness, also curved lines meaning positive. Do you want to use diagonal lines upward, meaning challenging, for example? And also be sure that when you are creating your artwork, to create an important focal point. And notice here, even in the words that I've chosen here on the screen, the O in focal point, it's a different color, so it draws your attention there. So in your artwork that you submit for the Global Youth Challenge about AI and the future of humankind, how will your artwork look? And what do you want to convey to your viewer? So I hope that you will do well. Next slide, please. And thank you so much for participating in our Global Youth Challenge Masterclass today. It's been so great to have all of you with us, and thank you for your participation. I know that even though some of you did not use a chat box or use your words, you were thinking about it and you were following along with us. So excellent work, everyone. At this time, I would ask if anyone has any questions or anything that you would like to clarify about creating your artwork for the Global Youth Challenge. You may use the chat box, or you may ask your question in person. Don't be shy. We are all friendly here. And it's okay if you don't have a question. I would encourage you, though, to do your research about artificial intelligence, or AI, artificial intelligence. To me, there could be very many positive things about artificial intelligence when it comes to art. Even now, there are computer programs and robots that actually have been programmed to design art. It's not human created. Ultimately, it is, though, because it is programmed into a computer. So it's interesting to look at different aspects of AI, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in art, whether it's in communications or transportation. AI is everywhere. It surrounds us. Sometimes it is used for good, but unfortunately, AI sometimes can be used for not so good. And both of those opinions are valid. So when you come up with your idea about AI and the future of humankind, don't be afraid to have conflicting ideas, because I think everyone sees opposing ideas sometimes, contrasting ideas. In your artwork, you may want to represent all of the good or all of the negative, or you might have a combination of each. But whatever you do, make sure that you think about your colors carefully, think about what kind of lines you will use, and think about what is so important that you want the viewer's eye to go right there. What is your focal point, your most important message? Okay. So thank you, everyone. I've very much enjoyed creating this presentation for you, this very brief lesson. We have compacted many art lessons into one brief and concise summary for you. So please do your research and find out more about some of these details. Thank you so much for inviting me, Christine and Anton.
Thank you, Deborah. We completely appreciate your time. We do have a question from Ali that I can provide the answer to. Ali asked that if students can get the information and contact of the masterclass, and of course you can. That's why we did the recording, so for future reference. Last week's class, as well as today's class, can be requested through emailing the Global Youth Challenge, and the email address can be found on our website, theglobalyouth.org. Another question from Dan is, can artwork be a visualized hand painting, mind mapping? Now that's a loaded word. Perhaps, Deborah, you can provide a little bit of clarity.
Yes, definitely. So a mind map is a way of representing ideas on a page visually. So for example, we can take a novel or a story, and we can actually create a mind map of that story. Even though it's in the written form, the story's in a written form, you can graphically represent sort of the beginning, middle, and end by illustrating the characters and showing the landscapes. So yes, of course, you may use a mind map to express your ideas about AI and the future of humankind. Yes.
Any other questions, please? Well, you can always email us, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And it's been wonderful having Deborah here. And thank you, the competitors, for joining us. Any information can be requested through emailing us. And please join us at 10 o'clock for the volunteer roundtable, which will be very exciting as well. Thank you very much. And everyone, have a good weekend and stay safe. Thank you, Deborah and Anton.
You're very welcome. Very
Bye.
nice to meet you all virtually.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thank you.